Right, so I think I've come up with something fairly useful. But before we get into what it is exactly, I should probably explain, right? So I'm working on a seasonal system, and a big thing I want for the seasonal system is for it to only run if the player is out in the open, so i.e. on the world surface or exposed to the open air. Okay, this would make the effects dynamic. If you build shelter, you're no longer affected by some of the harsh seasonal conditions. Now, on my quest to get this to work, I did a bunch of Googling, and boy oh boy, there was not a lot of resources for this mechanic. So a lot of people have tried using Skylight, for instance, but Skylight is calculated using both block light and the sky. So for instance, you can only test for 15, which means you can do what I want. You can test for the play being outside, but it doesn't work in the end, and it only works during the day. Even though it says 15 now, the light level is not 15, so it won't actually run. So that was issue one. The other closest solution that I could find was done by CloudWolf, and was a huge predicate system, and it was made back in 1.17, I believe, so it's not current, and there are a few issues with it being not current. So basically what he did is he set up a little check to test every block above you if it was something that would block the light, or rain, I think was the more technical aspect he did. So a solid block, if you will, meaning that he created a whole list of solid blocks, and well, there's been new blocks added to the game since 1.17. Plus, it is also a massive set of commands to run that I didn't think it was going to be too useful, to be honest. So I went about testing my own method, and I think I've come up with something pretty solid. So all I'm doing is using the positioned over command, so execute as every player at their position, and then we're positioning the actual command execution to the highest point on the height map, so the world surface. It is then going to run summon marker, and I've tagged it as SurfaceCheck. So what this means is if I go ahead and turn this one on, you can see right now there is a hidden marker here, if you will, that is telling me that this is the surface of the world. If we come under here, you can see it's wherever this little block is not protecting. So no marker block and no particle effect here, but if we go out into the open, well, there you go, we've got a surface check. So this is the surface now since we built it, making it dynamic, meaning you can build shelter and still use this as a condition to execute commands. The other aspect to it is just a little bit of cleanup. So I do have a timer system running, which is just adding 1 to it every tick. And as soon as it gets above 1, so it exists for more than 1 tick, it deletes itself. This way, we're not just flooding the world with an endless amount of markers. So this is in itself simple to set up. All you have to do is write out the scoreboard. So scoreboard objective, add TimerMobAge dummy, and then actually set up a scoreboard players add to your entity. So you can use the tag again, SurfaceCheck. Then you're just increasing TimerMobAge by 1 every tick. And there you go. That's the SurfaceCheck. And to show you how fabulously it works, we've got 2 little statements here. So we're executing at our SurfaceCheck. We're moving the position 1 down, so it's not on the same block as the player, because the positioned over world surface means that it's always going to be 1 block higher than the world surface. So right now I'm moving that back down 1, and then we're just checking if the player's distance is above that point, up to 1,000, which would equal the world height of the map. I think it's close to like 500 or 320 or something like that, but 1,000, you can chuck in any number you want, it just has to be positive. And similarly for the below side, we're just using a negative number again. So the whole command, execute at tag equals SurfaceCheck, positioned -1 on the Y, and then we're executing as all players if they are below that point using the distance Y check. So as you can see, right now we're on the world surface and it's saying surface. Well, if we go on a button, that's actually slight issue. Well, I guess there you go, a little hack. It's not perfect, but I do think it is still better than the predicate I found. And I'm not someone who can write out a huge predicate. I don't code or anything like that. I don't really feel like listing out all the blocks. But then if we go ahead and hop under, it changes to below. So right now, below, we go back to the surface. On the surface, we start going into a cave. Well, as soon as the skylight is blocked, you can see that we're now below. So I can use this now instead of running the say command to actually run and cause an effect. So for instance, you know, if we're talking in the seasons that I've created, well, it would be something like run particle. We'll go with snowflake for now, just to make it seem like it's snowing. centered on the player's position, 16 blocks all around them, so it really floods the screen. We'll do 0.01 for the speed and 100 particles, right? So as long as we're on the surface, it's going to snow. As soon as we get underground, it's going to stop snowing, and therefore simulating this dynamic weather system that I want to create. As long as you're in the actual terrain that can be affected by the weather, well, you're now suffering the particles and any other effects I tie to it. So altogether, I think this is a pretty useful string of commands that really does what I want it to. I think 1,000's overkill. It's clearing sometimes. It does actually go pretty quick, right? Yeah. Neat. So yeah, if you're undercover or under shelter, you're no longer affected. I could decrease the height, if you will. So for instance, I could try and set up so this doesn't actually affect it. But I think having it just affect on the world surface is decent enough, because if you build, a high base or anything like that, that would, generally block weather. I mean, this would block rain, right? So why wouldn't it block snow? So just to sum it all up once more, again, we're using execute as all players at their position, and then we're using the positioned over world surface command, and then we're running a summon to summon a marker, since markers are entities that don't cause any server stress, if you will. And we're also tagging it SurfaceCheck so that we can identify it and run other commands off it. Then we're adding to it using the scoreboard system, so it would be scoreboard players add at entity, do the tag, so tag equals world. Oh, no, sorry, SurfaceCheck. I'm thinking about something else. And then we're just adding one to TimerMobAge. That's all you need for the second part. Then to clean up, we're just checking as soon as the SurfaceCheck entity reaches an age of 2 ticks, we're deleting it. So as soon as it's above 1, and you can set up a particle if you just want to identify it, but this one is not necessary. There you go, I just want to showcase it off. And then for the actual effects, all you need to do is chuck this statement or this statement into your commands. So to have an effect run while the player is above the world surface, all you have to do is execute at that entity, tag SurfaceCheck, positioned -1 on the Y, so that it is 1 block below where the marker is created, because again, it's over world surface, so it actually places the marker 1 block above the highest block. And then as all players, if distance to Y equals 1,000. So this checks all the positive range from the marker entity. So this means that you can run any of your effects only if the player is on the world surface, or in actuality, the highest block at the moment. Then the counter to that is the same sort of setup. So execute at tag equals SurfaceCheck, position 1 minus on the Y, as all players, this time if distance Y to -1,000. So this is every block below the marker. And then run to actually have effects only be active only if the player is underground, for instance. So I hope these are both useful. I know I'm about to make wide use of them. Problem solved. It's good coming up with a solution, right? It's fun. Hope you enjoyed. I'll put them in the description. Comments, description. Both, maybe. Explore, find out. See ya.